Hello, I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the conference today, but I'm glad I have the opportunity to tell you about my research in this quick video. Self-verification theory proposes we like to surround ourselves with others who confirm our self-perceptions, but much of the research is focused on verification of trait assets, and very little extends to verification of behavioral patterns. As an illustrative example, I'll make use of data collected 2 years ago, which recruited pairs of roommates to make parallel assessments of one another's alcohol use at up to 4 time points over the academic year. We can ask whether individuals reliably report if their roommate is a drinker or not, which would be trait information, and if so, the extent to which this is true, which we've operationalized as the quantity of alcohol consumed as a behavioral measure. At each of the 4 time points, individuals were asked how many drinks containing alcohol they had on a typical day when they were drinking. The wording was also adapted for a roommate report. There were 6 ordinal response choices from I do not drink or roommate doesn't drink, then 1 or 2, 3 or 4, 5 or 6, 7 to 9, and then 10 or more drinks. Time spent together was also assessed at each survey wave on a 1 to 7 scale. Moving to our analytic model, we predicted that female roommate pairs would have better agreement since they typically disclose more than males do. That increased average amounts of time spent together would be associated with better agreement. This is the time between participants variable. And we predicted that at time points when roommates were spending even more time together than usual, that there would be an additional benefit for agreement. This is time within. And finally, that as roommates got to know each other's behavioral tendencies, their agreement would improve at the end of the year. In our first question, whether one roommate was a drinker or not, there is no significant moderation by gender, time spent together, nor time of year. Reports between roommates were very congruent, which gave us a kappa of 0.67 after adjusting for the margins. In addressing our second question, we only used data from those who self-classified as a drinker at some point during the year, and then tested agreement about how much they were drinking. In this model, female roommates did consume less, but they did not have better agreement. Time spent together was a significant moderator of agreement. Zooming in on this graph, we can see that solid lines represent the cumulative probabilities for average roommates, whereas the dashed lines represent those who were +2 standard deviations above the mean on time spent together. So these dashed lines are much more steep, which indicates a measure of preciseness, whereas the flatter lines are covering a larger number of possible categories that may be incorrect. Agreement was even better at times when roommates were spending extra time together, but there was not a tendency for agreement to improve at the end of the year. So in sum, it appears that trait information is quite easy to report on, but when assessing behavioral information, it may be advised to collect data from informants who spend a lot of time with the target of interest. Feel free to grab a copy of one of my handouts that has some extra information on the back of it along with my contact information. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions in the future if any arise. Thanks so much.